Welcome to the First Down Legacy Podcast, your gateway to the exciting world of multifamily real estate investing. If you're eager to discover the strategies, insights, and success stories that will take your investment game to the next level, you've come to the right place. In each episode, we delve deep into the multifamily investing arena, sharing expert advice, interviews with industry leaders, and valuable tips to help you build your own legacy through multifamily real estate. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our podcast is your playbook for scoring big in the world of multifamily investing. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of multifamily properties, uncover the latest market trends, and learn from those who have already achieved remarkable success in this dynamic field. Get ready to huddle up and tackle multifamily investing like a pro. This is the First Down Legacy Podcast, where your journey towards financial prosperity begins. Let's get started. So again, Mr. Hans, welcome to the First Down Legacy Podcast. It's an honor to have you here on our show today. Former general manager, right, for the brand Puma down in Venezuela. That's an amazing backstory. I can't wait to hear more about that. If you'd like to start off, please give us an introduction of your beginnings and where you're at now.
All right, Matthew, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, of course. Yes, I started my career, graduated from university as a business administration, right? That's what I studied. And right out of the gate, I just started working on a sales position. I like to call it sales position. The reality was in the warehouse, right?
Okay.
But I climbed the corporate ladder basically and ended up being the general manager of the company in Venezuela. It was an awesome experience. It took me 20 something years to get there. And yes, I think it was amazing learning experience. I like to quote what Jim Rohn always says is you don't get paid by the hours, right? Or you get paid by the value you bring to the market, right?
That's
so right. I truly believe in educating yourself and putting yourself working a little bit extra than anybody else just to go forward, right? So that's what I did, and that's in a nutshell how I went from warehouse guy to general manager of the company.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, it must be a huge change for you, right? To come from Venezuela, moving to the States. I see that you are an expert in the underwriting field, correct?
That is correct. Yes, that's the skill that I believe is the most important skill and where you can add the most value when you're starting off investing in real estate or in large multifamily. Because what happened to me was when I moved to the US, the situation in the country was not very well, right? So
okay.
I had all my eggs basically on one basket, right, on this amazing career that I was building in that company. Right.
Yeah.
And then from one day to another, I was kidnapped. That was not fun, with my wife. And then we decided to move to the US, right? Because the insecurity, I got a kid, my son was born, then I had a daughter, and it was like, this is not sustainable to live here. So we moved to the US. I was still working back and forth, traveling back and forth from the U.S. to Venezuela, but soon I had to just stop that, right? So I decided to learn about real estate, and because I had a condo that I was renting out while I was living here, and that was basically my main source of income, right? And I had to start from scratch. I was delivering balloons for a time, so that was a humbling experience.
Wow. Right? Talk about a resilient mindset, you're being able to move to the States and having a condo as your main source of income. That's a great start, right, to the introduction of real estate. So can you tell us a little bit about how you began, in multifamily real estate, and what attracted you to multifamily properties?
Well, it was as I was going through this hard time, having to reinvent myself, right? As I moved here to the US, my wife actually told me there's this guy who does multifamily and all that. And I asked my wife, like, multifamily, what is that? Is the guy has several wives? Right? And because
Right.
to be honest, that's a very, very unique concept here in the US, right? I have never seen it anywhere else. So for me, it was very new to understand you can buy a whole building with all the tenants, and it's not like you buy one apartment. You buy the whole
Right.
thing, right?
Yep.
And this guy was Grant Cardone, right? I was also reading at that time. I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert
Okay.
Kiyosaki, which is the book I would recommend anybody who wants to, get out of the rat race. Start
Yes.
reading that book.
Yes.
So as I was reading that, and I heard about this guy who's doing, real estate, I was like, yeah, well, let me see the story. How did this guy make it, right? And
Right.
for me, it was a very inspiring story of a guy who, lost his dad. He didn't have any background of, being wealthy or having, any connections. And I said, well, if he could do it,
Of
well,
course.
I can do it, right?
Yes, sir.
Because sometimes you see those families and you see, yeah, of course, this guy was born into a rich family and he has that fortune and he make it bigger. But to see a story of somebody who, started from zero and had to do it, that was inspiring. So I started taking some education, or I took education with that course. Then I learned about funds and syndications. And that's when it really clicked, right? But I started first. What I did is I took all my savings and some of my family members. I invited my sister and my mom. I said, let's buy a property. Let's do this. Let's get
Nice.
into multifamily. And we
That's
bought a 12
amazing.
place, right? That's how we actually how I got started. And for me, I always have to say I'm so thankful for being in this country, because it was for me impossible to think that a lender would give me that amount of money, close to $1 million, to buy a property when I was not even a resident of the country. I was here on a
Right.
visa, and I was like, it was mind blowing. And yeah, we were able to buy that 12 plex, cash flowing beautifully. And I said, how do I make this bigger? Right?
Correct.
I wanted to, the strategy is you buy this, you will refinance it, and then you buy another one. But, I was like, if I want to, I made the math. I said, if I want to make this to 100 units, I better teach this to my 8-year-old daughter. Maybe when she's 90, we get there, right? I was like,
Right.
this is not going to work. So I learned about funds and syndications, and that's when it really clicked. And that's how I was able to grow a lot much faster.
Amazing. Amazing. Hans, I really love the energy that you bring to it, because it should, when you're in this space, it fires me up personally. It fuels me in a way that I haven't felt in a long time. I used to play sports. I have a sports background. I went to college and I had a scholarship to play football out of Nebraska. So
Oh,
no, thank you. Right. So it's a great achievement personally, but outside of that, I've been looking to, when you talk about re-identifying yourself, right, educating yourself. Um, Again, when I learned about this world of syndicating and opportunities here, man, again, I felt that fuel again. I wake up excited, to get on calls just like this, to continue to learn more. So you said your first property was a 12 plex. Let's talk about the time between first educating yourself and being able to execute on such a property.
well, and having both that sports background, right? You know that things are only, I don't, I always talk with my wife. There's the chronos time, right? The time of, it's hours and days. And there's the time like you do in sports is when you get to a certain level is when you can get to the next step, right? You can do that in a week or you can do that in a year, right? It's like lifting weights. It's when you reach, it's when you get there. So yes, but for me I'm an action taker, right? So what I did
Love it.
was I took that education, and as it was, I think it took me like 3 months to go over that education. And after I had that, it was a very basic one, I got to tell you. And then I said, let's start looking for properties. Right? And I'm a true believer, right? I'm a man of faith. And I say, you know what? You will never have the whole road laid ahead of you, right? You just have to take the first step of faith and say, I'm going to start working in this direction, right? And
Yes,
you
sir.
take one step and then the other and then the other, and things will just start unfolding. So I met I met a broker that was actually in multifamily, that was a tenant on an office space that I had leased out, so I didn't have to pay the full rent on my office, right? So I rented a bigger office space and subdivided it. So I didn't know that this person was actually a multifamily broker. And then when COVID hit, that person told me, you know what, I can find you a property. And that's how we did it. And after 3 months of the education, I think 2 months later, I was closing on that 12plex, right? I said, I got to
Okay.
do this and let's do that.
So this is
Yeah.
very recent for you, huh? How long have you been in the multifamily space?
Oh yeah, this I started in COVID. Before COVID, it was the first property I closed was the 12plex was in May of 2021. Yeah,
Beautiful. Yeah, that's perfect. That's yeah, a little bit after COVID when things started to
yeah,
settle down. But you were an action taker, man. That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your investment strategy. Okay, so currently now, what do you look at when you're looking at acquiring these multifamily properties, or where do you start in the syndication process? You are the underwriter, so once you've fi- got the financials right, you got the information. What is your next step afterwards? Do you look for a sponsor on the deal? Uh, are you connecting with different property or asset managers? What's your structure?
That's an excellent question. Yes, and actually, we developed a system because during my training, I I was able to get a mentor on underwriting, right? And that person basically knew how to present to sponsors, how to structure everything in a systematic way. And we actually created a system for this that we also teach, right, to other students and other investors. And but basically, the first thing I do is I look at the area. The first thing, and before I start looking at numbers and looking at anything, I look at the area. I just look an overview, go to Google Earth, I look what's surrounding the property, right? That will take me 5 minutes just to take a look and have a grasp of what's going on. Is this an area I want to invest in, right? Because I will hold that property for 5, 6, 7 years, right? So I want to make sure it's a good area. I'll take a look on the research on, is the area growing? What's the crime rate? What is the economy doing in that area, right? Is it growing? Is there a job growth? Are the new jobs coming to town, right? Because you can be, I don't know, in a market like Dallas, which is called, yeah, it's an emerging market, yeah, but depending on what side of the streets you are, you could be in a very shady neighborhood, or you could be in
Right.
a good neighborhood, right? So you want to make sure that it's not just because you are in that area. I'm, for example, in Miami, right? So Miami, yeah, everybody says Miami's hot market. Well, it depends on the street you are, right? There's some streets
Right.
that you don't want to be in, right? So I want to take, first of all, just take a look, and then after you say yes, this area is good. I like to say every property has a story, and the numbers will tell you a story, right? So
Okay.
you know what, you build a winning team, right? And for me, a winning team is, property management company, the lender, insurance, everybody that will help you do the underwriting. And I consult with them, right? So I want to have a clear vision of how the lending is going to look like. So I talk to my lender. Hey, I have this property. It's, I don't know, 100 units in this market. What do you think? These are the financials. What do you think we can get on a loan on it? Because guess what? When you're buying on a syndication, the bank is the biggest partner, right? So you want to make
Right.
sure they want to buy the property with you. So they're going to
Yeah.
give you some guidance on that. And the property management company is, for me, the expert in the area, right? So that is someone you need to have very close with you during the process. So
Yes,
you can
sir.
ask them, hey, I want to do this strategy. Because the way I see this, Matthew, is we buy properties that need to go to the ER, right? They have some kind of pain, right?
Okay.
And we
Okay. So you
are we
focus.
are we have to assess what is the pain and what's the treatment. It's not a cookie cutter method. It's not like everybody who walks on the door, let's give them some Tylenol and send them home, right? So you gotta
Right.
you gotta be able to assess what's going on with the property so you can actually create a business plan, right? To make money. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're buying a property to make money for yourself and for your investors, right? So
Yes.
you want to make sure that there's a business plan, or there's an opportunity, right? So that's why you, on the underwriting side, that's what you do. You uncover. Let me see, what's the story? You talk to the broker. You ask as many questions as you want, right?
Yes.
And and then after you ask all those questions, you can then have a story, and then with that story, you can see, okay, what can I do with this property? if I just, can I increase the rents? Is it a management thing? Is it, do I have to renovate something? That those are the things you start, uncovering that story, and then you create the business plan, and then you say, okay, boom, I got it. Present it to my sponsor, because I always say on a syndication, you have to win the deal twice. You have to win
Yeah.
it from the broker, but you got to win it from the sponsor. He's the one who's going to sign on the loan, right? So if he says
Right.
no, you're dead, right? So
So
yeah,
you
then you
focus
find a
mainly on
sponsor.
value add opportunities, instead of like stabilized income or stabilized rents.
I like to go on value adds. Yes, I
Yeah.
think I see on the value add is basically you have a property here and then you bring it over here and you sell it, right?
Yeah.
It's like a flip, but it's a long-term flip, right? It
Yeah.
takes
Long
you
term. Yep.
a couple of years to do that, right? But
Right.
I believe that's where you can do great income possibilities.
Okay. Yes, of course. The preferred returns for limited partners are a lot higher, so it's a more attracting deal. I'm currently working on a 232 unit out in Greenville, South Carolina, where I'm a co-sponsor on the deal. So I'm raising capital, and that's something that we're finding out here, right? Is a little bit of resistance as far as again, it's not much of a value add, more of a stabilized property over the years. So yeah, so can you talk about that as why you would go against, or not against, right? But you would prefer value add compared to stabilized. What are your experience with the stabilized property?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Because if you are a family office, right, or you are like, you're looking for more stable or legacy property, you want to have something and hold it for a long time, right? Then it's okay to go on a stabilized, very stable property, right? But if you are looking to raise capital from investors, right? Investors, they don't want to hold the property with you for 10, 15, 20 years, right?
Right.
They want to have an exit clear on the horizon, right? They are going to come with you and you're going to basically tell them, I'm going to invest your money in this deal. We're going to bring rents from here to here. So you're going to have some returns and we're going to
Right.
sell this property in 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Right.
Correct.
So I think what's driving the strategy of the value play is basically the market, right? The investors want to have, nowadays they want to see at least 7 to 8% pref return,
Yeah.
right? That's the cash on cash they want to see every year on their money. But in overall, they want to see anywhere between 19 to 20, 21% average return on their money, right?
Right.
So as I always say, they want to double their money in 5 years. So
Yeah.
so that is what investors are looking for. So you have to
Okay.
find properties that you can raise the money for. Because I've had the same thing. I'm raising currently. We are closing, and it was so fun because the size of the property is exactly the same. We're closing on a 233 unit in Vegas right now as we speak.
Wow.
Right. So
Amazing work. Amazing work. Yeah, man. I'd love to connect on future possibilities, and of course, learn from you and your teams. I'm fairly new to the multifamily syndication world. I actually started investing in myself, right, in my education as early as this year, early September this year. And I've just been,
awesome.
pursuing it. Yeah, just pursuing it head first. Trying to build my network. The connections that I'm making. And yeah, so I was able to make these connections and become a co-sponsor here on this deal in South Carolina. And yeah, it's again, it's going to catapult me to that next level where I want to be, and build that credibility. Once we have 232 units under management, what that does for me is massive.
Yeah.
Amazing. So let's talk about a little bit about the risk management. I know you talked about the preferred returns and the IRR, right? As far as multiplying, right, doubling your money in 5 years. What are the risk management that you have come across and able to mitigate there?
That's an awesome question because at the end of the day, what we are doing is just managing risk, right? We're assessing risk. You're buying a property and you have a vision that you will take it to a different place, right? You're going to increase the income. That's your vision, but there's a risk involved in that. And during that time, there's a lot of unknown things that could happen, right? That's why one of the first things is conservative underwriting. When you do your numbers, you can't just bank on best case scenario, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to base my returns on. You got to go worst case scenario, right? So you have to bake in first higher vacancy, right? Give you an example. We bought a property, it's 100 units, and that property we started doing the business plan, right? But there were some tenants that the rents were so low that we had to let them go, right? So what happened? We started renovating, letting people go, putting new rents. Out of the sudden, well, you are at 80% occupied,
Right.
right? So I see people underwriting with, oh, the market is, 5% vacancy, so they underwrite at 95%. Then the
Right.
other thing is, one thing is to have warm bodies in the units. Another completely different thing is that all those warm bodies are actually paying, right?
Actually paying rent.
So, and at the end of the day, for us, it's important to get money into the bank account, right? Because that's
Of
how we
course.
pay for everything, right? So I see a lot of people making the mistake of, confusing just occupancy or vacancy with economic vacancy, right? One thing is just
Okay.
to know you might be 95% occupied, but you might be only collecting 80% of the rents, right? So
Yeah.
you are actually 80%, you have 20% economic vacancy. So that is one thing. And the other is, you have to have a lot of enough room on your capex budget, right? Things are going to cost more and going to take longer than you expect, right? We had AC HVAC situation. Good thing we had that in our budget included, but we calculated replacing an HVAC is going to cost you $4,000. Boom! It happened in the summer, peak of the summer, shortage
Hmm.
of supply, $7,000 for each HVAC unit.
Right.
So you have to have enough
The capex.
enough on your capex budget, right? On the reserves, right? On that. That's how I think is the way you mitigate risk.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's a great insight there, right? Especially with the CapEx budget, it's something that you're collecting monthly, right? Or have to have reserves for.
Yeah.
Um, and you talk about economic, vacancies compared to physical vacancy or people who are actually paying rents. Uh, what kind of process do you guys exercise as far as tenant audits before acquiring the deals, right? You look at the rent rolls. What's the process there on your tenant audits?
Well, the first step, of course, is whenever we get a deal from a broker, and I always, if there's somebody that wants to start investing in this, always talk only and exclusively, and I highlight that very big, with the listing broker. Don't ever make the mistake. I'm going to talk to a buyer's broker. He's going to find me deals. No, you want to talk to the guy who's talking to
The
the
listing
seller,
broker. Yes,
right?
sir.
The listing broker. Uh, but from the listing broker, once you get the minimum documents, which is an offering memorandum, which is nothing, just a brochure telling you what the property is, right? And some
Right.
ideas that you can do to the property, you want to see the financials and you want to see updated financials, right?
Yes, sir.
We are now at the end of the year. So if you show me financials from March, I'm going to tell you, hey, I need something a little bit closer. A month ago is good, right? But then yes, you look at the rent roll, and the way what we do is we just sort the rent roll. We really look at it and we see, okay, how many are the vacant units? What is the minimum rent they're collecting? What is the maximum they're collecting? What is the average, right? So we can have an idea of what's going on with the property. And that's when I tell you, like when the property goes to the ER and you're doing that diagnostic, the X-ray to see where's the pain, that's
Yeah.
how you uncover the pain. You look at the rent roll, you look at the T12, which is uh, just a financial statement of the last 12 months of the profit and loss, right? So you look at the income and you look at the T12 and you look what's going on each month, not just of the totals. You want to see, is the income going up? Is the income going down? What is going on with the expenses? Are they going up? Are they stable? Are they going down? Because that is what you're going to inherit, right? So
Correct.
you just want to know what's going on so you can actually do a correct business plan or action plan to correct that and make some higher profits, right? And then of course there's the thing that we also do, which is it's called the lease exposure. Is we look what leases are ending when, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like when you buy a property, let's say 100 units, right? It's not like all the leases started on the 1st of December and then they
Correct.
end on 30th of November. They just, there are, whenever they started. So you want to know also on risk, okay, how many leases are going to go expiring after you buy the property in the next 2 to 3 months, because you will need to fill those doors if you don't want to lower your occupancy, right? So those are things that we do, right? And that's also what we teach to our students that on our coaching program that we have for underwriting. We teach them how to sort those rent rolls, how to talk to the brokers and ask the right questions on basically to get the right story of the property, right? Because
Yeah,
that's what you're buying. You want to know the story, what's going on, so you can actually assess and do something, right, to make money.
correct. Excuse the interruption, but I have a very important message for each and every one of you. If you've made it through the video this far, it could only mean that you are ready to take your multifamily career to the next level. If you book a call with me in the link below, I can show you step by step on how I've been able to create passive income, build a legacy I've always wanted, and turn my dreams into a reality. Book a call with me now, and I too can show you how to align your purpose through multifamily investing. Let's go. So let's walk it back just a little bit. I do have a question. You say you're an action taker, and I can feel the energy and the passion that you have. We're talking about multifamily properties here. Let's talk about how being an action taker compared to knowing every little detail before you take action, right? So me personally, of course, I feel that you're not going to understand every single aspect of the deal or the legality sides of it, right? So and that's why you have to create a team. How soon after, right? You said after educating yourself 3 months after. I was just talk a little bit about that for our new investors or new individuals looking to get into the multifamily world of you know needing to know everything becomes overwhelming and essentially becomes stagnant, right? You start treading water and not getting anywhere. Can you talk a little bit about that in your
Yeah,
experience?
and that's awesome that you just touched on that, because that's what some people call it, analysis paralysis. There's no way that you will have all the information in order to take a decision. You will assess the risk, you will get some information, and based out of that, you have to decide, okay, I'll move forward or not, right? So pretending to, become an expert on the matter, right? It's before taking action. It's not possible. As a sports person, right? We both understand. You come to a game, you don't know the outcome of the game. You don't know what the other players are going to do. You don't know what's going to happen. You have to be prepared and say, okay, I'm going to do my best. And as it comes, I will start adjusting, right? And that's the same thing you do with anything, I think, in life, right? There's no answers for everything. You have to have some knowledge, be prepared, of course, get some education, but then you have to start taking action, because only when you take action is when you, as I like to say, practice makes the master, right? You have to start practicing. If you only stay studying, you will never, it's like playing an instrument or whatever. You can read all the books that you want, right? You have to start doing it, or driving a
Start
car.
applying
Right?
it. Yeah.
I can give you all the theory of driving a car. The only way you learn is just get behind that wheel and start
Yes, sir.
driving, right? That's when it clicks. That's when you say, oh, okay, I know it. Right. So yes. So don't wait too long. Just start taking action. Right.
Start
And
taking
build
action.
a
I love
team.
it.
And building the team, you will build a team as long as you progress, right? Um, First of all, you have to get some education on how to find these deals and how to underwrite them, because that is the secret to all this. It's behind of that business plan, right? So you have to understand how to make that business plan. If you want to raise capital, you need to understand and tell to an investor, this is the business plan, right? You give me
Right.
the money, and this is what I'm going to do with that money. And then after a certain time, this is what's going to happen, right? So you need to understand the underwriting. The underwriting is just that, is creating a business plan and a projection.
Correct.
So, so learning that underwriting is critical, but then the team, your sponsor, your capital people that's going to help you, investors, that's relationships you have to keep building, right? So
Yeah.
as you do that, you also work on the other, right? It's not just, you just move everything a little bit forward.
Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the technology and how you use that today in the multifamily investments that you do? Are there certain tools or platforms that you count on, or that you can actually advertise, right, for your that you use in your current investments?
Well, I think the most valuable tool in this business is called Excel. That
Okay.
is, I believe, the most valuable tool, right? There are different underwriting tools that
Yeah.
are out there. Some of them are cloud-based. If you're not very savvy with Excel and you don't know how to work it, so you can use these cloud-based. I think there's one called Commercial Underwriter, and you can subscribe to that. And well, you just plug in the information, and it will give you the business plan.
Yeah.
And there's other Excel-based that are I like to use as well. Um, and at the end of the day, any tool that you buy is is just that, is a tool, right? If I give you a hammer, right, you're not going to build a house just because you have a hammer. You need to know how to use it, right, in order
Yep.
to be able to build it. So you need to first understand the concepts of the whole underwriting and the whole business in order to be able to properly use any tool, right? I know there's a lot of people also using AI, which is now the big thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I have to be honest, I still need to get on that, but it definitely helps you a lot in writing speeches to for your investors, right? But at the end of the day, this is a business which is a people's business, right?
Correct.
So you need to network, and as they say, your net worth is your network. And that's so true. Go to all these events. If you want to make it on this business in multifamily, go to the events. There's so many events for multifamily, from meetups to, from the big names out there that they just promote their events. Go to them, right? You will find like-minded people that are going through the same things that you're doing, but you also will find investors there, and you will
Right.
find
Yeah.
sponsors in those events, right? They're not going to be on your computer on an email. You have to meet. You need to meet people, right? And you need to be able to go out there and talk to them about what you're doing. And that's I think a key part on this business.
Amazing. Great insight there for sure. Networking, building the team essentially is something that you need to have right in your back pocket when you're ready to execute on a property. What kind of automated systems, or if you do, if any, do you use today in order to raise capital? For example, for this 233 units that you're currently working on in Las Vegas, what was the initial approach when raising capital for this property?
Well, that's a good question. Basically, it's your phone. You can use mass text apps. There's one called Group Text. You can download. I think it's costing like $15 or something like that. It's not expensive, right?
Okay.
I do use Excel to have a spreadsheet where I have all my investors and I follow up with them. And but the group text helps you a lot to send the same message but personalized, right? Because one thing is just to, hey, I have this investment. It's different when I say, hey, Matthew, how are you?
Right.
There's this investment. So you can use that just to let them know that you're there, but nothing is gonna beat the follow up. You have to follow up, right?
Have to follow up.
You have to
Yeah,
follow
so
up.
again, I'm essentially new to the syndicating world, and this is one of my major roles that I'm in right now is raising this capital. So I've joined different masterminds, in hopes to make those connections with the already established individuals. And again, my original approach with this was it's like, hey, I have this deal that I'm currently working on. The numbers speak for themselves. But again, from a professional like yourself, you're telling me the follow up, is critical in order to make it a more personalized relationship and to build that credibility and trust with the individuals.
Yeah, you have to have emails. It's emails and text. I like text a lot because text get more people read text more than they read emails, right? You
Okay.
send them emails and they have thousands of
Yeah.
it, right? They have to
Hmm.
click, they have to open, but a text message, it has to be short. It's got to go on point, and so that people at least give you some kind of answer. Yes, no, stop, whatever it is they tell you, right? So, but it's the persistence. At the end of the day, you know, I like to make that analogy always with sports, right? It's whatever you do, any achievement in sports, it requires repetitions, right? No matter whatever it is, you got to do it over and over and over. And that's the same thing with capital raising. You don't call people and they just like, I was waiting for somebody to take my money, right? It's,
Right.
you have to explain it to them once, they think about it, they talk to their spouse, then you take it again, and then, oh yeah, I remember Matthew called me about this deal. Yeah, yeah. But then they got, they're working, they have a life, right? Then the kid, has to go to the soccer game. Oh yeah, I have to fill that. I remember that. So the urgency sometimes is not there, right?
Okay.
Until you have to be consistent, explaining to them, hey, this is only for a limited time. This is not an investment that you will be able to jump in 2 years, right?
Right.
We got it now under contract. In the next 60 to 90 days, we're closing. So if you want a piece of it, you have to come in, right? But you have to be very subtle, right? Because you can't push people too much, because then it's like, hey, you're being rude. But if you don't follow up, right, then a lot of people are thinking about it, but then they forget it. And so you have to
Yeah.
follow up. It's a follow up, follow up. So in my process, it's a Excel, it's emails, and text messages.
Okay, for sure. That's something I'll keep in consideration, as the follow up. Again, I try my best to, reach as many people as I can, but it's not what they call an ideal investor, right? Where you're certain targeting a certain demographic, a certain type of investor, to work with in the future. Again, I'm only 3 months in the syndicating world. And the reason why I bring that up is because, I read a quote the other day where it's like most people give up within 6 months of
Yeah.
of accomplishing anything. And yeah, I was like, no, that's not my mindset. I'm not, I'm looking to, again, I feel the passion and the fuel right here in the midsection. And it's like, man, I wanna make this happen. We're gonna make this happen. Um, and yeah, so those networks that you're talking about, is there anything coming up here that you can share with us a little bit that that you yourself be at, or maybe your team will be representing your team?
Well, I know there's going to be a good event by the beginning of the year. That is going to be in Orlando. I think it's called Peak Partnership. You
Okay, yeah.
can look for that. Those are good events. Um, and be prepared. Have your cards. I think one of the things in this industry is the follow up, right? If you're going to go to the network event,
Hmm.
one advice, you want to be on that person's phone, right? You get a business card, and this is, one event, business cards. Most people, these business cards will just be in their desk forever, right?
Correct.
After the event is done, they go into a pile, from the pile to the drawer, to the drawer to the garbage, right?
Right.
And so what I do is I like to be on the person's phone. So I make sure I have a QR code so they scan it instead of giving my card. I
Yep.
make them scan it so that when I send them a text message, they know, oh, it's Hans, right? It's not just a random guy. Who is this, right? So I'm taking, when you say taking risk, right? I know people will not put the card into their phone, right? So when I send them a text, it's going to be a text from an unknown number. So who is that? If I know on this event you scanned my code, I am in your phone. So, and I take a picture and I send it to them. Hey, it's us. Remember me? So that's a very easy way to follow up or network with people, right? So they remember you.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's a great tool. And that's something that, again, do you have like a landing page, right? A website that you did say that you're a coach, right? And teach these
Yes.
underwriting students on how to essentially source the deal and, be able to create the business plan. When you first started out, what was your main focus as far as marketing? Obviously the education part, but marketing yourself. What approach did you take in order to build that credibility?
Well, yes, it's a combination of marketing yourself, right? And being part of these groups, right? Go into all the Facebook groups that are related to real estate and start talking about it. Start talking about not only about your wins, start talk about your struggles, right? That keeps it real, because when you're always just like, I want 100 units, I want a 233, then you become distant, right? You start becoming on that, that guy that, he's all,
Okay.
yeah, I can't relate to that guy. He's just making wins. talk about the struggles, like burning the midnight oil, or man, I just, I underwrote this property and I spent, I don't know, a week doing this and I lost it. Talk about your struggles as well, because people relate to that, right? And that's
Yeah.
important, that people know, okay, I'm not the only one, right? So this guy's, yeah, making it, but he's also, having the same struggles as I am, right? Like, it might sound so basic and so simple. I was afraid to take the phone and talk to a broker, right? Because my thing was like, they're gonna know I'm a newbie. I have an
Uh-huh.
accent. They're gonna know that I don't know what to ask, so I'm gonna look like a fool, right?
Okay.
And yeah, and you know what? Yeah, the first call you're gonna look like a fool. There's no way around it, right?
You know,
You
I
got to
love
do
that
it.
you mentioned that, man, because I'm also part of a mergers and acquisitions firm. It's called the Ryan Group, right? Where essentially I source these deals and I do a quick back of the napkin underwrite to see if if it's a great investment for our firm. And it's exactly that. It's exactly that. It's instead of cold calling, owners and things like that, not knowing what to say, it's like, hey, let me get on the phone with these brokers, and essentially they speak the same language, and they'll walk you through the current market cap, the NOI, the expense ratios, and things like that. So that's how I was quickly able to develop, being comfortable on the
Yeah.
phone and being able to talk these financials, with these brokers. So that's a great advice that that you mentioned there.
Yeah,
Hey
that
Hans,
that ties up with what you were saying about, perfecting this craft before you won't be able to perfect a script to talk to a broker, because once you're talking with him, he's going to ask you something that's not on the script, and then you're going to be like, oh,
right? Yeah,
I don't know, all right. You
yeah,
gotta you gotta do it. It's just start taking action. I think the secret of anything is just starting to take action. And as I was talking to some person today, it's like, you, the importance of small steps. You won't be able to close a 100-unit deal and that's, oh, now I did it. It's just, I took education, next day I got 100 units or 200 units. It's small steps that you take each day consistently, right? That makes
yes,
that
sir.
someday, now, boom, I got this deal. But it was, the addition of all the small steps that actually made it for you to be there, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hans, real quick, tell the people where they can find you, where they can, follow you, or and possibly, become a student of yours.
Yes, awesome. So you can find me on Facebook. Hans Seelinger is my name. It's Hans, and then my last name is Seelinger, S as in Sam, Eelinger. That's my Facebook and my Instagram. And regarding the coaching, we have a website. It's called learn.uw to win, like underwrite to win. So learn.uw number two win.com. And my email is info at uw number two win.com.
Underwriting2.com. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay,
Underwrite to
great.
win.
Yes, sir. Underwrite to win. Okay, great. So, do you have any current things that you're learning at the moment? You're never done learning, correct? You're always trying to perfect your craft.
Yes.
We talked about 1,000 reps in order to reach a mastery there. Um, what is something that you're currently working on and developing within yourself right now?
Well, that's awesome. Yes, I do have currently, I'm part of a coaching program right now in order to perfect my branding and my publishing in Facebook and social media, right?
Okay. Okay.
Because I believe as you become a real estate investor, you have to be able to come out of your comfort zone, right? And you have to let people know what you're doing. Right. At the beginning, for me, it was like, oh, I don't want to share too much about it. But now I understand, like, if I'm doing something that's actually good and it's making money for the investors, right? It's a disservice not telling them that there's this opportunity, right? So when
Right.
I had that mindset shift, right, because for me it was like, I don't want to sound like this guy who's asking for people money. And then I understood I'm not asking for people's money. I'm giving them the opportunity to invest and doubling or tripling their money in an
Yeah.
investment, right? So I have to tell them about it, right? And I have to let people know that I'm doing it. That's the only way for people to approach me and say, hey, Hans, I want to invest with you. So I'm learning how to perfect that craft of posting on social media.
Awesome. Awesome. That's amazing. Again, you talk about, continuing to develop, your skills and you being able to offer this approach to newcomers essentially, right? And the people who are interested or that curiosity has always been there. It's something I talked about. It's like, hey, uh, we've always had the curiosity on how to become passive. It's like, well, this is an instrument. This is a way that we can
Yep.
do it. That's amazing. So a little bit before we wrap things up here, where do you see yourself, the future of your multifamily investing career in the near future? I know you guys are currently working on the deal in Las Vegas. So the next 2 to 3 years, where do you see your future going here?
Oh yeah. I mean, for us or for me, one of the goals is to become a sponsor, right? That would be, I think, my ultimate goal, right? So I can also help students to close some deals, sign on the loans, and be able to tackle larger deals. That's I think one of the goals for me. And one of the immediate goals I think that we have been achieving, I think that has a lot to do with my theory, right? We do all this, yes, to make money, but also to be able to give back, right? So in an interview like this, okay, we're giving back to people who are coming and are behind of or wanting to achieve what we already have achieved, right? So we're giving them some insights, right? So I believe for example, on the coaching, that's my way of giving back as well,
Of
is
course.
allowing other people to understand how to really assess these properties to make money and win those deals, right? So we have already some students that are made it to best and final. For people who doesn't know what that means, is once you are in the process of buying a deal, right? You submit all your offers, and then out of the X number of offers, well, the broker is going to select just a few to go to the best and final. So you submit your
Right.
best. So I have a couple of students right now in that phase, and I think that for me is a major achievement.
That's
When
a
you say,
major win.
I was able to help somebody else also get into the game and, get a step closer to getting out of the rat race, right?
Of
Where you
course.
can create your wealth. Because remember, when you are doing this as syndications, you don't have to have your own money. I thought in order to buy a 100 unit deal, 7 million, $10 million deal, I needed to have millions of dollars. You
Right.
just need to put the sweat equity, and the value you bring is it raising the money? Could be one side of bringing value, but the most important one, or the most money, is find the deal. If you
Yeah.
find the deal and you can prove that you have a solid business plan, you will find the sponsors, you will find the investors, and you will take a cut of that, right? So without putting your own money to work, if you don't have it, right? If you have it, put it there, because I mean, you found the deal, right? That's
Right.
what I do. I found the deal. I invest in my own deals, right? But you don't have to. You don't have to have millions of dollars, of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even if you're broke, you don't have a dime in your bank account, you can still close a 100 unit deal, a $10 million deal. You can still take that down. And I think that's the beauty of this. And if you're willing to put the work, and as in everything, it's not just rainbows and unicorns, right? You will have to put the work into it.
Yes,
But
sir.
if you do it, you will get the results, right?
Right. Amazing. Amazing. I love it. I love it. Thank you. I'm actually very inspired, through speaking through speaking with you, Hans. Of course, a little bit about your background and the achievements that you've been able to accomplish in such a short time. It's truly inspiring. Um, I know we didn't talk about this. Do you essentially chase off-market deals, or are you okay with on-market deals? Can you talk a little bit about the
Yes,
differentiate
that's
there?
that's an awesome question. I always hear people like, "Oh, the only deals that are good are the off-market deals." That's not true, right? There are deals on the market that you find, and the easiest way, or the low-hanging fruit, are deals in the market, right?
Right.
And I think right now is actually an awesome opportunity, because the market is about to shift, right? With the high interest rates that we're currently having, And a lot of people who took bridge loans, and for people who don't know what that means, is they took a short-term loan for 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 years ago, right? They took those loans thinking they would be refinancing to a low interest rate of 3.5, as they were, 2 to 3 years ago. Now the interest rate is 7. Those deals are going to come to market. They're going to be listed. That's not going to be off market. That's going to be listed. They will be desperate to get out of those deals. All right.
Right.
So that's a tsunami of deals are coming to market. Now is the right time to be prepared, how to analyze those and to be able to take those down. So yes, off market is awesome, right? But it's also a lot harder to find.
Yeah.
So why go the hard way? Yes, you can start looking for off market deals, but don't lose the eye on the ball of the ones that are on the market. I mean, they are on the market. The sellers want to sell. Maybe they're asking too much. And one of the things that I see, and it's always going to happen, sellers are always going to ask too much. Right? I see a lot of people making the mistake like, oh, they're asking 10 million for the property, but it pencils at 7, so I'm not going to do anything. Submit the offer at 7.
Let's negotiate.
Don't know what's going on, right? Submit the offer at 7. The broker's going to be happy he got an offer, right? He might tell you, you're crazy. Oh, I'm never going to sell it for 7. But the reality is, if you come with an offer for 7, another one comes with 7.1, the other one comes with 6.8. Guess what? He has to talk to the seller and say, hey, the market is speaking.
Yeah.
Market is speaking. This thing is worth 7, right? Out of these offers, are you going to let it go or not, right? So don't be afraid if, they're asking too much. Well, that's their problem, not yours.
Right. No, actually, I'd love to share this with you and hear your insights about it. So there's a current pocket listing down in Louisiana. It's 200 units, 23 million asking, right? And at 23 million, we're looking at like a 6% cap rate. However, in the area, the multifamily properties are trading for 8.2. Right. So you do the math there, we're looking at a 19.5, right? It's valued at 19.5. So again, I reached out to the brokers like, hey, like, this is what the current market cap is trading for. We can only come in at 19.5. Are you guys still willing to entertain that? And of course, so it's an assumable loan. It's a 2.99 interest rate assumable loan.
Awesome.
Yeah. Right. So of course he was like, well, if you guys are able to come in cash, right, to make up the difference, he's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. It's like, okay, great. So now we're here negotiating, and of course I'm looking to partner on to see if we can take on this deal. So is that something that that grabs your interest, Hans? I'd love to connect more, at a later time about it, just to share it with you.
Yeah, let's do that. It's always good to, this is the way this works. I mean, we network. If we partner, it's awesome. If we don't, you know what? We made a friendship. We made a new connection, and that's what leads up to more and more connections. That's how this works, man. That's awesome. Yes, would love to take a look at it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Hans. Well, again, man, it's an honor to have you on the First Down Legacy podcast. Again, I withdrew so much inspiration from you, just hearing your story and what you've been able to accomplish in such a short time. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me, Matthew. It was a pleasure to be here. And everybody, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. I say, Henry Ford always said, if you say you can't, well, you're right. And if you say you can, you're also right. So say you can, and you will do it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the First Down Legacy Podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration for your multifamily investing journey. Remember, your legacy in multifamily investing is within reach. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep building your success story. We look forward to having you back with us for more game-changing strategies and stories in the multifamily investing world. Until then, keep the momentum going and keep building that legacy. This is the First Down Legacy Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.